and all this. Okay, so I will do it, but for this, those who are regularly in class, just send me a message. ठीक है, तो मुझे ध्यान आ जाएगा. ठीक है ना आकाश? Just send me a message for WhatsApp group and I will create a group of those students. Okay, because you are regular, so you can make a better coordination. Okay, now in last class we discussed a basic introduction about how East India Company started the exploitation of India, and this chapter is a battleground for the historians. There are different group of historians and they had different perspectives, right? We have discussed it. Now we don't need to know the name of the historians in GS. Simply we need to know the approaches, so that whenever we will get a question in our mains exam, so we could easily identify, okay, the nature of the question, and we can frame a better answer, okay, for that particular question. So that's why we need to be familiar only with the basic approaches. You are familiar with the basic approaches, okay? Nestle's historian's view. Okay, later there are a few topics like deindustrialization, forced commercialization of agriculture, decline of handicraft, right? Development of railways in India, okay? Development of banking and financial institutions in India, development of other consumer, you can say that other companies in India. So there also we need to have this approach. We will use this. And here the second part that we are entering is land revenue policies in British India, right? Land revenue policy. So we need to discuss that. Okay, and now I'm going to start this topic, and first I will start with Warren Hastings. Clear? In last class I just gave a overview of that topic, so now we are going to start. Okay, now are you familiar with all these issues? Okay, some issues I have already discussed in the previous chapter. Okay, that what was the Battle of Plassey, significance of Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, its significance. Okay, then Treaty of Allahabad, dual system of governance, everything we have discussed in our previous classes. पहले ही हम इसको discuss कर चुके हैं, right? And dual system of governance. In this dual system of governance, the land revenue was collected from the people. But was there any particular model? No, no particular model. Clear? The models which were already in practice, that was followed, and there was a great deal of confusion also. Why confusion? Because Mughal power was declining. Different states have declared their independence. Here we are taking reference of mainly Bengal, right? So basically the British will use, okay, you can say that mix up, okay, those things that are in continuance, they are using the same things, and that's why there was a lot of corruption. When until unless you develop an organized system, centralized system, so what will happen? Corruption will prevail. For example, I am running a coaching institution, right? And until unless I will not develop a centralized system, okay, how can I take admission? Okay, if I will authorize 5 or 10 people to take admission, what will happen? This is a simple idea, that until unless you develop a particular model of administration, you are going to suffer challenges honge hi honge. Okay, and these challenges created problems during these 7 years. There was a lot of corruption, and the British government was also criticized that the government is promoting this corruption in India. Because who is doing corruption? Company officials are doing corruption. And who has given rights to this company and company officials? Kisne right diya hai? So the government has given this right. So the government will be, okay, questioned that you are promoting corruption in India, and this corruption is done by a corporate company, and that is what? Corporate corruption and corporate violence in India. Okay, ये है corporate corruption and corporate violence in India. This is happening. Okay, so we are familiar with this. Now we are entering into the topic, then I will also discuss the slide to revise the themes. First, let's discuss or let's develop some ideas about the basic topics. ठीक है, एक basic idea frame करते हैं, then I will add new content in that. Okay. Right. So just here, just for your reference, so that you could understand the later development here. 1765 to 1772. These are 7 years. Okay. This is the time period of dual system of governance in Bengal. And here the company has got what? Diwani rights, the right to collect land revenue, the right to collect land revenue. And in the collection of land revenue, what we see is that there were different challenges here. There were different challenges here. And what are these different challenges? One important challenge here is that though there is the absence of any particular model or fixed model, कोई ऐसा particular model नहीं है, fixed model नहीं है. So there is the absence of any particular model or any fixed model. कोई particular model नहीं है, कोई fixed model नहीं है. Okay. There is no any settlement done with any particular class. इस कोई भी ऐसा particular class नहीं है जिसके साथ कोई settlement किया गया है. That is the problem. Okay. So there was no any particular class. There was no any particular class with which the settlement was done. With which the settlement was done. There was no any particular class with which the settlement was done. कोई ऐसा particular class नहीं है with which the settlement was done. तीसरी important point क्या है? That AIC officials had got a new task, the task of collection of land revenue. For this they will have to communicate with the local people. आम लोगों से बात करनी पड़ेगी ना, टैक्स कलेक्शन करने जाओगे तो. And the local people will speak which language? Vernaculars. वो तो local languages बोलेंगे, and you are speaking what? English. तो communication की भी problem है. So you will take the services of intermediaries. बहुत ज़्यादा आपकी dependence किस पे होगी? Intermediaries पे. That is the next important challenge here. That at this point, that challenges of communication. Challenges of communication. So here the role of intermediaries is okay required. और जहाँ पे जितने ज़्यादा इंटरमीडियरीज आ जाते हैं, जिनको हम दलाल कहते हैं, ठीक है, इन द लोकल वर्ड्स, वहाँ करप्शन क्या होगा? ज़्यादा बढ़ेगा. करप्शन विल बी वेरी हाई. दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है. प्लस सपोज यू आर इन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. ओके, यू आर जस्ट superintendent of police or okay you can say that superior authorities than this DGP rank के आप ऑफिसर हो, और अगर आप खुद ही करप्शन कर रहे हो, you are taking bribe, तो superintendent of police will also take bribe. DSP भी bribe लेगा ना, SHO भी bribe लेगा, कांस्टेबल भी लेगा. तो if we want to check corruption, तो ईमानदार किसको होना पड़ेगा? अगर in future okay you will be superintendent of police या जाओगे कल को एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में शामिल हो गए, और अगर आप ऑनेस्ट निकल गए, ठीक है, तो किसी की हिम्मत नहीं पड़ेगी कि किसी से एक पैसे करप्शन कर ले या ब्राइब ले ले. समझ गया ना? आप वो जो करप्शन का पूरा चैनल है, उसके बीच में आके एक ऑब्स्टेकल बन जाओगे, पूरे करप्शन के चैनल को ब्लॉक करोगे. तो ऐसे ऑफिसर्स को क्या किया जाता है? चैनल से बाहर कर दिया जाता है, ट्रांसफर कर दिया जाता है कि भाई चैनल को डिस्टर्ब मत करो. होता है ना? द मोस्ट ऑनेस्ट ऑफिसर्स get transferred hundreds of times in their lifetime because they obstruct this channel. ये भी हमने सीखा है ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी से ही कि करप्शन कैसे करते हैं. एंड व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग हियर? क्लाइव वाज अर्निंग अ लॉट. कितना पैसा कमा रहा था? इन द फॉर्म ऑफ गिफ्ट्स, ब्राइब्स, पर्सनल जागीर्स वगैरह मिले थे, राइट? So what will happen? What do you think about the EIC officials? Don't do you think that they will also take bribe? अगर क्लाइव नवाब से घूस ले रहा है तो कंपनी ऑफिशियल्स दुकानदार से लेंगे, मर्चेंट से लेंगे. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? डील करने का तरीका बदल जाएगा. सो दिस वाज हैपनिंग, अ लॉट ऑफ करप्शन हियर. ओके, हियर वी सी व्हाट, अ लॉट ऑफ करप्शन, मिसमैनेजमेंट, अ लॉट ऑफ करप्शन, मिसमैनेजमेंट, सब कुछ हो रहा है. ठीक है, करप्शन, मिसमैनेजमेंट. ठीक है, इट मीन्स दिस इज व्हाट, okay, order or disorder. This is the kind of disorder. Management or mismanagement, this is mismanagement. This is a condition of what? Chaos. And there were critics of East India Company in Britain. ब्रिटेन में कंपनी को क्रिटिसाइज करने वाले लोग बैठे हुए हैं, वो ब्रिटिश लोग ही हैं. दे आर द ब्रिटिश पीपल. एंड व्हाई दे आर क्रिटिसाइजिंग कंपनी? बिकॉज okay, their rights were affected when EIC was given monopolistic right. अगर केवल एक ही कंपनी ट्रेड करेगी इंडिया के साथ, तो व्हाट अबाउट द अदर प्राइवेट ट्रेडर्स एंड बिजनेसमैन? ओके, दे वर नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस सिस्टम, बट दे वांटेड टू बी द पार्ट ऑफ दिस सिस्टम. दे वांटेड टू गेट द शेयर फ्रॉम द प्रॉफिटेबल ट्रेड इन इंडिया, बट दे वर अनेबल टू डू सो. ऐसा कर नहीं पाते क्योंकि पूरी की पूरी राइट किसके पास थी? कंपनी के पास थी. कंपनी वाज हैविंग द सोल राइट to do trade and commerce in India. So whenever they will get the opportunity, they will criticize East India Company, okay, of mismanagement, of different corrupt practices and challenges. So this was happening here, right? Right, this, the critics of EIC in Britain, right, this point, the critics of EIC in Britain, the critics of EIC in Britain criticized, the critics of EIC in Britain criticized about the corrupt practices, about the corrupt practices of EIC. They criticized about the corrupt practices of EIC. They criticized about this corporate violence and corporate conspiracy of EIC. They criticized about this corporate violence and corporate corruption of East India Company. And the people started demanding, ब्रिटेन के लोग ये डिमांड करने लगे, that the monopolistic rights of EIC must be ended or taken back. ब्रिटेन के लोग ये डिमांड करने लगे कि कंपनी की मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स को क्या करना चाहिए? खत्म कर देना चाहिए. दैट मस्ट बी एंडेड, दैट मस्ट बी abolished. Okay, so now this had become a very popular demand in Britain. This had become a very popular demand in Britain, and the people were demanding that the EIC's monopolistic rights, EIC's monopolistic rights must be ended or abolished. EIC's monopolistic rights must be ended or abolished. कंपनी की मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट को क्या कर दो? खत्म कर दो. Now suppose you are British parliamentarians. What will be your opinion? आप क्या करोगे? कंपनी की मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स को खत्म कर दोगे? कंपनी पैसा किसको खिला रही थी? पार्लियामेंट्रियंस को, कि भाई ये ध्यान रखना, अपनी मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स नहीं जानी चाहिए, समय समय पे आपके, ठीक है, पास पैसा पहुंचता रहेगा. ठीक है, मेरी बात समझ गया ना? ये पूरा देखो करप्शन का कितना बड़ा चैनल है. That the people are demanding and the parliamentarians are getting bribes from the company. So what they will do? They will try to protect the monopolistic rights of company in parliament. वो आर्ग्यू करेंगे कि भाई कंपनी की राइट्स बची रहनी चाहिए, कंपनी की राइट्स नहीं जानी चाहिए. Got it? This was happening. Now in this situation, अब गवर्नमेंट को कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा ना आकाश, आशिका, गवर्नमेंट विल हैव टू डू समथिंग. कुछ करना पड़ेगा. प्रेशर होता है जब गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर, तो नहीं भी करना होता है फिर भी कुछ ना कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट विल से दैट ठीक है, ओके, ये किसका किया जा रहा है, किसने ये सिस्टम इंट्रोड्यूस किया था? क्लाइव का. बुलाओ क्लाइव को. ठीक है, क्लाइव को बुलाओ, बहुत परेशान किया है ना. एंड देन द कंपनी विल, द गवर्नमेंट विल से दैट वी विल सेंड वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स. किसको भेजना है? वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स को. एंड व्हाई हेस्टिंग्स वाज सेंट टू इंडिया? टू रिफॉर्म दिस सिस्टम ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के सिस्टम को क्या करो, ठीक करो। लैंड रेवेन्यू पॉलिसीज में जो करप्शन है उसको कम करो। अच्छा ये बताओ, इन द कलेक्शन ऑफ लैंड रेवेन्यू इफ देर इज करप्शन, so it is affecting the profits of company. If corruption will be checked, कंपनी का प्रॉफिट क्या हो जाएगा, बढ़ जाएगा। ये भी ध्यान रखना है आपको, मेरी बात समझ गया ना। अगर सड़क पे ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाले घूस ले लेते हैं, लोगों से ब्राइब ले लेते हैं, अगर वो लेना बंद कर दे तो क्या होगा, गवर्नमेंट का रेवेन्यू बढ़ जाएगा, बढ़ जाएगा ना। ओके, ये सीधा सा कॉन्सेप्ट है कि अगर आपने सिस्टम ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को इम्प्रूव किया तो इससे सीधे सीधे फायदा किसको होने वाला है, गवर्नमेंट को होने वाला है। दूसरा, the second important point is that okay, the popular demands of people will also be addressed. लोग कह रहे थे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अच्छा नहीं, तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी मतलब बेहतर हो जाएगा। So what we see here is that, right, this point that Warren Hastings was sent to India. Warren Hastings was sent to India. Warren